ready for a deep dive into music and culture.
Always. What's on the playlist today?
Well, we're hanging out with the Liat show. That's Liat, like bizarre. Got a stack of her blog posts right here, ready to dig in.
Oh, I love Liat's blog. She's got such a knack for uncovering those hidden connections between music and, like, the heart of a culture.
Exactly. And this time, we're heading to Israel with rock musician Barry Sakharov as our guide.
Sakharov. Now, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. What's Liat's take on his music?
Obsessed. Seriously, she's seen him live, like, dozens of times.
Whoa, dozens. Okay, this is more than just a casual fan. We're talking, like, life soundtrack level devotion here. What is it about Sakharov that draws her in?
That's what I'm dying to find out. But even before we get into the music itself, Liat drops this little biographical detail about Sakharov that honestly blew my mind a little. Hit me with it.
Born in Turkey, raised in Israel.
Oh, wow. Okay, so he's got that cross-cultural background woven into his very identity. I can see why Liat, with her whole music as cultural exploration thing, would be fascinated.
Right. It's like talk about a recipe for some seriously interesting music. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, I've got a bit of a burning question.
Go for it.
How common is that whole Turkish-Israeli background? Is this, like, a significant part of Israeli society we're talking about, or is Sakharov more of an outlier?
That is a great question. It's definitely more nuanced than just a simple yes or no. I mean, it's not the majority by any means, but there's a pretty sizable Jewish community with roots in Turkey.
So it speaks to a larger story then. Totally. You've got to remember, Israel, historically, it's this crossroads of cultures. And that kind of cultural mixing pot, it always makes for some really vibrant art, especially music.
Okay, so we've got Liat, our music-obsessed guide. We've got Sakharov, our rock star, with a fascinating backstory.
And a whole lot of cultural fusion just waiting to be explored.
Where do we even begin to unpack his music?
Well, lucky for us, Liat gives us a few key songs to work with, each one kind of like a little window into a different side of his artistry.
Perfect. Hit me with track one. What are we listening for?
The first one that caught my eye, Bom Bam. Even the title is, intriguing.
Bom Pam. It's like it instantly makes you want to move.
Right. It's got that energy. But here's the thing. It's actually a cover.
Oh.
Arsen, a Greek artist.
Hold on. Let me get this straight. We've got a Turkish-born Israeli rocker covering a Greek tune. And this is just the first song.
I know. It's like Liat handpicked this one to make a point.
Which is?
Music. It knows no borders.
Okay, I am so hooked. If that's just the intro, I can't wait to hear what other musical gems are in store. What's next on our playlist? From a Greek cover to, well, this title's a lot more straightforward. A Broken Heart is a Whole Heart. Deep stuff.
Right. And this is where Liat's connection to Sakharov's music really shines through. Like, she talks about how this one especially resonates with her own experiences. Love, heartbreak, the whole shebang.
Yeah, that push and pull. Wanting to be close but also needing your own space.
Yeah.
That's relatable no matter where you come from.
Exactly. But it's more than just the lyrics for Liat. She talks about the musical style, how it just amplifies everything.
Oh, right. She mentioned something about that. So it's not just what he's saying, but how he's saying it.
Exactly. Liat specifically points out those Arabic and Middle Eastern influences woven into the music.
Okay, so like actual melodies, instruments you can trace back. I'm trying to picture it.
Think those winding, melancholic melodies, that you often find in traditional Middle Eastern music. Maybe even some instruments you wouldn't normally hear in Western rock.
Okay, now that is interesting. It's like he's taking these really personal, almost universal experiences, love, loss, but then filtering them through this really specific cultural lens.
And that's where his background, being born in Turkey, raised in Israel, it all comes together. It's not just about blending genres for the sake of it. It's like an authentic expression of who he is, these influences he carries.
And we're just scratching the surface.
Oh, yeah. Just as we're getting comfortable with Sakharov's sound, Liat introduces us to another big player, Rami Fortis.
Oh, yeah. She called them her, ultimate couple.
She was not kidding about that couple thing. Liat loves their collaborations.
What's Fortis all about? Fill me in.
If Sakharov is cultural fusion, then Fortis, he takes it up 10 notches. Ready for this?
Get me.
Italian, Iraqi, Jewish heritage, born in Israel. It's a lot to unpack.
Hold on, rewind that. Italian, Iraqi, and Jewish. All at once. Talk about a mix.
And that's exactly what makes this partnership so powerful, right? They embody this whole idea of Israel as a crossroads, all these different backgrounds coming together, creating something new.
So we've got these two musical powerhouses each with this incredible mix of cultures. And they decide to team up. It's like not just a duo, but a whole explosion waiting to happen.
Exactly. And Liat gives us the perfect example, a song called America.
America, huh? Bold move, especially for a song coming out of Israel back in the 80s. What's the story there?
It's less about, like, celebrating America and more about taking a hard look at it. Liat points out that the lyrics, they offer a pretty sharp critique of the American dream, that whole chasing wealth and power thing.
So some big themes, ambition, disillusionment even, but all seen through an Israeli lens. And this is the 80s. It feels weirdly relevant today.
That's what's amazing about music, right? It can capture a moment, a place, but still speak to these universal truths that resonate years later. That's what makes America so fascinating. It's not stuck in the past. It's like a conversation that's still going on, even now.
Makes you think, what are we listening to today that's going to have that same impact years from now? It's funny thinking about America and how relevant it still feels. Music can be such a time capsule.
Totally. Like a snapshot of a specific moment.
Right. And it got me thinking about something Liat mentioned, how Sakharov and Fortis's music, it's been like a soundtrack to her own life.
Oh, yeah, she talked about that. And it's not just about, like, remembering specific events, It's more about how certain songs, they capture the feeling of a whole chapter in your life.
Okay, yes. And she actually picks out a couple of songs that do that for her, right?
She does. For those childhood memories, she points to this one, There Is No End to Childhood.
Oh, wow. That title alone.
Right. It gets you right in the feels.
It's like that bittersweet thing, growing up, realizing that childhood with all its like magic and freedom, it's slipping away.
And Liat nails it. She talks about how that song brings back this longing for simpler times, something I think a lot of us can relate to no matter where we grew up.
For sure. Okay, so we've got the nostalgic childhood vibes. What about those other phases of life? The slightly more, shall we say, grown-up ones?
Oh, Liat does not shy away from those. Get this, she brings up Blue Dream, and let me tell you, completely different energy.
Blue Dream? Am I the only one getting a certain vibe from that title?
Nope, you're picking up what I'm putting down. Liat gets really honest about it, too. Talks about the sensuality she connects with that song, those more, how do I put it, intense emotions. Definitely a different side of the human experience.
So not just nostalgia, but like the full spectrum. From those innocent, carefree days to, well, the more complicated stuff that comes later.
Exactly. And I think that's a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive. We started with Liat's journey, discovering Israeli culture through music.
And along the way, we've seen how these artists, these songs, they reflect not just a specific time and place, but these universal experiences, the things that connect us all.
Right. It's like you could be anywhere in the world listening to a song in a language you don't even understand.
And still be totally moved by it.
Because deep down, it's tapping into something we all feel.
That is such a powerful thought. Makes me want to go even deeper, What other musical bridges are out there waiting to be crossed? Any recommendations for our listeners, maybe someone who captures that same cultural fusion, that honesty about the human experience?
Sticking with Israeli artists, if you're vibing with Sakharov and Fortis, you have got to check out Ofra Haza.
Okay, tell me more.
So she was this Israeli singer, amazing voice, and she blended traditional Mizrahi music, think Yemenite Arabic influences, with more contemporary pop sounds.
Like that same thread, right?
Yeah.
Honoring your roots, but also like pushing boundaries, making something totally new.
Exactly.
Love it. Adding her to my playlist as we speak. This whole deep dive has been such a good reminder. The more we open ourselves up to music from different cultures, the richer our own lives become.
Couldn't agree more. And who knows, you might even find your next life soundtrack along the way.